We have started. We are online, ready to go. Things are going to kick off in another 4 or 5 minutes. So I'm just going to sit here and play ukulele for a little bit, make sure that everything can be seen. Group chats in the corner. If you want to ask a question, and this is a replay, make sure that you go over to the website, theversatileperformer.com. Go to the contact page, fill out the form there, and you can ask a question. I'll be checking those emails all throughout the week, and you can ask a question there, and I'll answer the question the next webinar that we have. I'm going to do these weekly on Wednesday evenings at 7:30 exactly. So yeah, go over to the site, theversatileperformer.com. Share the link. Every week I'm going to be putting these out. So share these with your friends if you guys are interested in magic or know someone who's interested in magic, whether they're just getting in, been doing it for a few years. Give them the link, and the more the merrier, I always say. So it would be great to have you guys go over to the Versatile Performer, check out what we're doing there. Things are really kind of in beta. The plan is to be doing blog posts and videos through email, just giving you guys all the skills, all the tips, all the techniques that we can possibly think of to help you become really amazing performers, because that's what it's all about. So it looks like my microphone is working. I'm going to play a little bit of ukulele here. Let's see what's waiting for everybody to jump in. If we get some people, so we should be able to hear them. That would be fantastic. So, and share on your social media as well. Go to, tweet them, tweet this stuff, put it on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me pretty much anywhere on these different social media platforms. I hang out and people direct message me and answer questions all the time. So yeah, connect with me through social media, tweet this stuff to your friends, post on Facebook. Let's get the word out there, because I think this is a really cool thing. Most times when I see magicians putting up things like this, that we're doing Google Hangouts or Skype sessions or whatever it is, it's really about the tricks and the effects. So this is a little bit different from that. We're going to be looking at and examining performing, thinking about performing, and really, like I said, becoming amazing performers. So we got about a minute away, guys. We're almost to the 7:30 mark here on the East Coast. Welcome to our Wednesday night hangout. This week we're going to be talking about some really cool things. So buckle up and get excited, because I am for sure. Got about another minute before we go. I'm just going to sit here and play a little ukulele, just strumming along, waiting for the 7:30 mark to kick things off, guys. So sit back and relax. And there in the chat box off to the side of your Google Hangout, go ahead, and if you have any questions, type in there. In fact, just let me know who you are. Maybe just type in your name, type where you're from. Just let me know that you're here hanging out with me. Sometimes I can't see if we've got viewers, who they are, or where they're at. So, well, it is 7:30. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our Wednesday night hangout. You're hanging out with me, Jason Weddington, and it is 7:30 here on the East Coast. I'm going to put the ukulele down for a second, because otherwise I will get distracted. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for watching. If you're watching live, if you're watching on the replay, I'll put these up on my blog at theversatileperformer.com. If you're watching live, don't go there just yet. Hang out here with me and watch this really cool hangout where we're going to be talking. There is a chat bar off to the side. There's a group chat. If you are logged into the Google Hangout or if you're logged into the YouTube channel, I believe you can pull that up. It's right there on the bar, should be on the left-hand side, and the window will pop up on the right-hand side. So if you want, just go ahead and type in, hey, I'm here, whoever you are, what your name is, where you're from, and we will get started. So this is Lessons from a Life in Magic. We're going to be doing these every single week, every Wednesday night, 7:30, right here. And I'm going to be sharing the tips, skills, and techniques, exactly like it says, because I think it's really all about becoming an amazing performer. That's really what we all want to do, is become amazing performers. And that's what this whole concept is about. You know, in magic, a lot of times, I was saying before we got started, a lot of times with magic, everything revolves around the trick, the actual like methodology, sleight of hand, and all of that stuff. And that's cool. In fact, we're going to be covering some sleight of hand stuff maybe next week. But we don't really talk a lot about the performance of magic. And that was really the reason why I wanted to start the Versatile Performer, is because I'm a performer, and I wanted to share the interesting things that I've learned along the way. I've been performing for 20 years as a professional, and I just wanted to share all of the little things that I've learned along the way from the many different types of performers that I've gotten to hang out with. When I performed at Walt Disney World, I got to travel all over the place, got to hang out with the best performers, whether they were musicians, hula hoop artists. I got to hang out with cigar rollers and stilt walkers, and hanging out in the green room, we got to talk and share tips and little things that we'd learned along the way in our own specific brand of entertainment. So that's really what the Versatile Performer is all about. And this week, we're going to be talking about creating a winning set. And what do I mean by that? To me, a winning set is that group of effects, the group of tricks, whether you're a magician or you're a juggler, these tricks are the little things that we put together, the effects that we put together, and we want to put them together in such a way that we get the maximum impact, not only out of each specific effect, but also from the whole. So putting those together in a way that creates the maximum impact. That's what we're really talking about with creating a winning set. And it doesn't matter whether you're performing close up or stage, or whether you're busking or you're doing TV, all of those things, putting a few effects together creates that winning set. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And a little bit about me. For the past 22 years, I've been a professional entertainer, and I got my start performing in restaurants. I'm from a little town in northern Kentucky, and I started working in restaurants when I got into magic. I put together a theater show from there. I've worked in theater. I've worked in all different kinds of venues, from small theaters to giant theaters in front of thousands of people. I've worked at Walt Disney World, like I was mentioning before. I got to perform at Walt Disney World for a little over 10 years. This is me in the middle there. This was a character I developed from performing. I got to take over for John Armstrong over at the Magic Castle, and I put together this British character, and that British character kind of took me around the world performing. I got to do events, conventions, trade shows, VIP, all sorts of things with that company. Even eventually, I got to help create entertainment spaces and work with the entertainment group directly in creating events and creating spaces for entertainers, which I thought was really, really cool at the time. Still one of the coolest things I think I've done in my career, and I've done some pretty cool things. And that career at Disney led me to working on television. Here I am on one of the most watched television programs in all of Latin America. I believe this one is called Aquí se habla español, which if my Spanish is a little rusty, but I think that means here we speak Spanish. So it's a really interesting whirlwind experience, and from all of that experience, I've learned a lot of important lessons. And like I said earlier, from sitting in green rooms, and whether I was hanging out with the British Invasion, which was a Beatles tribute band, or whether I was hanging out with, like I said, stilt walkers, or there were these guys on these blades that could jump really, really high, and actors, like musicians, improv people. I learned a lot of stuff. And the whole point behind the Versatile Performer, the whole point behind these weekly webinars is for me to share that information. And again, this week we're going to be talking about how to create a winning set. So how do I approach creating a winning set? There's 3 pillars, really, that I believe are the fundamentals of creating a winning set, right? And what are those? The first one is, does the material in your set, does it fit your character? Now, last week, we talked all about character development. In fact, if you go over to the Versatile Performer, don't do it now, but if you go over to versatileperformer.com and you look at our blog, last week we posted the webinar that we did on character development, and we talk a little bit about this from that side of things. And you'll notice when we're going through these different ideas and concepts, a lot of them are layered in on top of one another. They're linked up, mainly because there's no real good way to separate the performance. We can look at things isolated, but in actual reality, in application, when you're performing, there's no separation. All of these things are interconnected in a way that they just can't be disconnected. So does your material fit your character? And that's a really key concept. Again, once you have your character down, your material really develops itself, and you get to choose your material based on that. But when we're talking about how to create your set, think about the material that you are choosing, why you're choosing it, and does it really work with the character that you're trying to create and trying to communicate to the audience? Because at every step of the way, we are communicating with our audiences. From the props that we use, the dress that we put on, if you wear makeup, the way that you speak, all of these things are communication. So think about your set, think about the effects, the individual effects that you have. Think about whether or not they really do fit your character. Now, the next pillar is, does it fit your audience? And again, this is something early on. I think if there were some things that I could have known early on before I really got started performing professionally, it would be these concepts about picking effects that really do fit your audience. And as a magician, sometimes it's a little easy. We can really easily think about, okay, if I'm going to perform for a children's group or children's audience, then the effects that I want to pick are going to be, they're not going to be complicated, intellectual mentalism pieces. They're going to be bright colors. They're going to be fun, probably a little silly. In magic, we call them certain effects sucker tricks, where you're leading the audience into a way of thinking or an effect, and then at the end, the magic effect is that, oh, it's something completely different. Like the classic die box is a sucker effect, a classic example of a sucker effect. But think about what effects you're doing in your set, and how do they relate to your audience. I've seen a lot of guys, when I was working with a group down in Orlando, we were putting magicians into restaurants all across the US. And one of my roles within the company was to talk to and audition all of these magicians that we were considering for these positions in the restaurant. And one of the things that I noticed over and over and over again was that the material that they chose did not fit the audience that they were performing for. So you would have magicians in restaurants pulling things out of their mouth, or that's I won't go any further, but like that is a great example of uh, choosing an effect that doesn't necessarily fit your audience. Now, why would pulling something out of your mouth not work in a restaurant? Well, in a restaurant, people are there to eat. And if you're doing, let's just say, a card effect, and you shove an entire deck of cards in your mouth and you pull a card out, this is after someone has selected the card, right? The underlying idea, what you're communicating there is that, oh, he's been here all night, or he's strolling around to these tables, and I'm seeing basically what he's doing for everybody else. He's shoving these cards in his mouth. I just touched one. I have to get ready to eat. This is gross. Now I have his, spit all over my hands. That's not cool. So, a lot of times, especially magicians, we choose effects because we're fascinated by them. And that's not necessarily wrong, but it's definitely not right. So, kind of have to step back, think a little bit about what the effect is that you're doing, and really, does it fit your audience? Does it relate to them in the venue even that you're performing in? So think about that when you're putting together your set. And the third pillar is, how much time does it take? And there's three areas of this really that we can break down. So the first one is, when you think about it, how much time does each effect in your set take? How much time do you have? Like when I performed in variety shows, sometimes you would only have 8 minutes. Sometimes you would get 15. Maybe some sets you would get like a half an hour to perform, and then others, if you were headlining, maybe 45 minutes. So you have to be very cognizant, very aware of how much time each one of your effects is taking. And it's important not to try to rush through an effect just to make it fit how much time you have. You want to make sure that the audience is aware that that the audience is really aware of what's going on in the effect, that they're not confused. Di Vernon, a really famous magician, used to say that confusion is not illusion. So we don't want to confuse our audiences by going too fast. Again, when I was working with that group down in Orlando and putting magicians into restaurants, one of our rules, one of our underlying rules we had, was the 1 minute rule. And the 1 minute rule is, think about how many people you're performing for, and equate that to how many minutes you're going to be there. So if you only have one person, only choose an effect that you can do in a minute, that's going to take a minute or less, right? You don't want to spend 10 minutes for one person. They're going to get bored. They got other stuff that they're interested in doing. So 2 people, 2 minutes. 5 people, 5 minutes. Generally speaking, like if you're going to do a restaurant, and this rule really holds well in restaurants, think about the terms of how much time you have to perform. So the waiter comes to a table. The table's just been sat. Waiter's going to come over, take their drink order, deliver their drinks fairly quickly. It's between the time that they sit down and the time that their food arrives is the time that the magician has to perform. And you don't want to take up that entire time. And a lot of magicians sometimes will try to take up, they'll fill that entire time frame with performing and with entertainment. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that. Other magicians may disagree, but I don't think that we should. I think at especially like a 4-top, let's just take a standard 4-top. I think 4 minutes is plenty of performance time. Do 2 effects that are quick, your best effects when you walk over, and give yourself a little bit of time to come back maybe later on. And this is a sticking point for me too. If you're working restaurants and you guys promise to go back to a table, please go back to the table. It's very important. Work out a system, figure that out, because the worst thing is for an entertainer, a magician in a restaurant, to tell a group that he's going to come back to them and he doesn't show up. So that's a really a big issue with a lot of close-up magicians especially. So think about your set in terms of, if you're doing close-up, think about it in terms of working in restaurants, in terms of how much time you have before their plates are served. So usually in decent restaurants, you're looking less than 15 minutes, probably under 12 minutes for the order to go in and the plates to be ready and then to come out to the table. Maybe in a nicer restaurant, you might be waiting a little bit longer. Depends on the restaurant, but think in terms of keeping it short, quick, hard-hitting, and then come back at the end with something really special. And don't do 2 or 3 effects at the end either. Keep that set to really one effect that leaves them a really, really strong impression of who you are. And again, think about all of these things in every type of situation you're in, whether you're busking, right? Busking shows, generally speaking, most people's attention spans in busking is about 15 to 20 minutes, not much longer than that. Going much longer than that, you're going to start losing people. So think about your set in terms of what's the hardest, not really hardest hitting effect, but what's the effect that establishes your character the strongest early on. You want to put that up front. That's usually a very quick, very short, fast to the point effect. Then you're going to build into an effect that builds your character a little bit more, that connects with the audience. Now you're playing with them. You're getting them involved maybe. You're bringing some spectators up on stage. And then finally, to wrap up the show, you're doing something really strong. Again, if you're busking, or even if you're doing stand-up shows, you're wanting to wrap up things in a way that the audience is going to remember you. So think in terms of the emotional content of the set. What do you want them to remember about the performance? Obviously, you want them to remember you, but what do you want them to be talking about when you walk away? All of these things, when you're creating your set, think about those, because again, like I said, these are all layered concepts. How does the material fit the character? How is it playing with the audience? Again, how much time does it take? Like I said before, there's 3 sections of this time thing. There's practice. Think about one of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular webinar, creating a set, is because I've been reading a lot on the boards lately, and I see posts that a magician will have an audition or a show coming up in 2 days, right? And they wonder what effects that they should be doing. And I'll be blunt. If you're posting on a board and you've got 2 days out before a show, it's too late. Don't try to put something new into your act at that point. It's already too late. You don't have enough time. Even as a seasoned professional, you need, I would say as a seasoned professional, I would work on things maybe 2-3 weeks before they would go in my act. And I was performing anywhere from a minimum of 12 shows a week to a maximum of like 25 shows a week that I was doing. So even with that, I was wanting to do a lot of practice and a lot of rehearsal. And those are the 2 other ideas that you want to think about as far as in terms of time and the effects that you're presenting. So if you have a show or you have an audition coming up, don't try to put something new in. Put something into the act that you don't have to think about, that you can literally do in your sleep. That's the best way to ensure that you're going to get the maximum reaction. All right? So these are really the 3 pillars. And when you're thinking about material and you're thinking about the effects that you want to put into your set, kind of go back to these. Think about, how does this fit my character? Or does it fit my character? Does this really fit my audience? Does it fit the venue that I'm performing in? And again, how much time does each of these effects take? Is this taking too long, right? So think about those things. Very, very, very key. So I'm going to kind of show you a couple of images here and walk through some of these concepts, right? So the character, the audience, and the time. This is me performing an effect on television. Look at the reaction of the host. I love that reaction. She's just loving what's happening here. This is a great effect. I'm not crazy about the name. It's called the Linking Lover Bands. It was introduced to me by my friend Steve Marshall, who lives in Japan, who's originally from Florida, and he was one of the original performers out at the Boardwalk, I believe. He performed at Disney for a while. Great, great guy, but he introduced me to this effect, and it's a fantastic effect. It's short. The effect, probably in its entirety, is right around a minute. Two heart rubber bands are selected by the audience member or audience members, and they link right on their fingertips. It's a really beautiful effect. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's called, like I said, it's called Linking Lover Bands. But it works in this situation, again, because I was thinking about my character, and my character that I was presenting at the time was really all about love and joy. Those were the two underlying emotional ideas that I wanted to communicate to my audience. And especially on TV, TV is a crazy beast. You want to make sure that everything that you do is timed very quickly, because you don't know, things can change very rapidly in that world. You want to make sure that everything that you're doing frames your face and frames the host's face that you're working with. You want to really kind of highlight them, because if you can get them to react, then you're getting your audience at home to react, because they're the ones that the audience is really living vicariously through. You're just a guest there. So again, I was thinking in terms of, with this effect, what was the show that I was on? What was the theme of the show for the day? What did I want to really communicate with this host? I knew prior to going on live that I would be with this host. So I was choosing the effect very specifically to work with the show, the audience, the host, and again, keeping that time frame in mind. And again, that 1 minute rule is really key. Because the nice thing is they sometimes they'll even ask you if you're allotted for a specific amount of time. Let's just say you're there for 3 minutes, right? You want to be able to talk, give a little bit about yourself. Again, always point to your social media and things like that. Do your marketing, but you want the magic to stand out and stand alone. So you want enough time for that magic effect to really hit home and give them a chance to react to it. So that's one idea. This is another shot of me performing restaurants. And guys, after the webinar, if you want, send me an email through there, contact me, send me some photos of you guys performing, and we can talk about them. We can critique them on the webinar if you want. We can do live chats. Again, there's questions that you can ask me there in the side chat bar. So make sure if you do have a question, jump in there and ask a question. I'll be getting to those. I'll be answering questions towards the end here. But again, going to restaurants, thinking about how much time. See, the drinks are already on the table. We've got drinks on the table here. Look at these reactions. Those are really great. And thinking in terms, again, how much time do you have? How much, what are the effects that you've chosen for that particular restaurant? This was a fine restaurant, really nice place. You don't want to be walking in with dirty props or props that might seem too childish. Even if there are children there, you can find props that will match that audience. So keep that in mind. Restaurants are very important. And the tip that I gave last week, and I'm going to re-emphasize this week, if you're working restaurants, ladies and gentlemen, uh, don't wear cologne or perfume. Or if you're going to wear it, very, very light. It's key that you have that you're not overwhelming the senses of the guests at the restaurant, because really they're there. The experience is for the food and the ambience of the restaurant, and you're there to enhance it, not overpower it. So think about that. And again, timing on in restaurants is really key. Work with your kitchens, understand what their flow is, so that you can make sure that your sets are kept really tight. And again, working on stage, here's this is a television show, but think about it in terms of theater. Variety performers, you want to make sure that your sets are really, really tight. That you, when you get really good at performing, or you've been performing long, I should say, you get really good at the timing of your act. You really understand. You have an innate sense of how long your show is going, and you don't want to go over. Absolutely do not go over. If you're performing in a variety show and you're slotted for 8 minutes, don't do 9. Don't do 8.5. Don't do 8 minutes and 12 seconds. Do 8 minutes. If you've got 15, do 15. If you're doing a keynote speech, do 45 if that's what they've booked you for. Don't go over. You can go a little short. People are way more forgiving for going short, especially if you're working conventions or doing like a keynote speech. People have been there, they're sitting, they're tired. They'll give you a little bit more leeway of going short, but absolutely do not go long. So this is me performing on another television show. I'm not really exactly sure what the name of the show was, but I do remember this guy. He was just had a lot of, I don't know, in Spanish it's like machismo, right? It's a lot of just, he's a very macho guy. And the character that I had to play for this particular effect was because I'm bald and I didn't have a beard, and everybody else on our team of magicians that were doing this media tour, everybody else had mustaches and beards. And for this particular trick, this is an old effect. It's a great one where you have the 4 kings and you make one of the mustaches from the kings disappear, right? And what you can't see is there's a camera that's right above our head that's videotaping, or that's showing the audience this angle, so it's looking straight down. That's the reason, one of the reasons why we chose this effect. This is the beginning of the effect. This guy, you can see he's really involved. This is the big payoff when the mustache vanishes from the cards and appears on my face. And like I said, again, you can see here, this is my friend BJ, this is my friend Alex. I think there's like 5 or 6 other people standing off to the side there to the left of the photograph. But look at his face. He had no idea that the mustache was going to appear on my face, because he had just looked at me, and of course I was bald. But again, it was a quick effect. We understood how the audience was going to be able to view it, and we understood that this was something that was going to connect with him. Like I said, he's kind of a man's guy, and we were talking about, how a man can grow a really thick, bushy mustache very quickly. So anyway, it was a really fun effect. But again, thinking about in terms of what the character was that I wanted to present, who my audience was, and the amount of time. It was quick. Again, the effect probably lasted less than a minute, maybe a minute and a half tops. And the final one, here's me out on the street. This was actually at a venue in Walt Disney World called the Boardwalk, and I was one of the Boardwalk buskers. So it was very similar to street style performing. We had to stop people and build audiences, create that environment of a spontaneous magic show happening. And again, this was the character that I was performing. It was a British character. In this, you can't really see it. It sort of blends in here. This was right after it had gotten dark, and I had 2 different egg bags that I would use. One was red that I would use at night, and obviously this one was the black egg bag. For some reason, I wasn't using my red one that night. but I would have a little girl. She's pretending to hold the egg here, and I'm demonstrating. I'm jumping because in a minute she's going to jump and she's going to throw that invisible egg up into the air. She's going to spin the bag and she's going to catch it. Actually, if you guys want to see this video, it is on YouTube. It's on my channel. It's a 10-minute long routine, and that's the reason why I wanted to put this picture here, is because it was such a long routine. In this set, I would have to do 4 shows a night, and in this set, I had to compete with a big firework display that went off every single night. And if you weren't careful, it would go off right as this effect was coming to the big climax. And I needed to basically stage my show and create my act, create this set, so that wedged in between or just prior to the fireworks going off, and when this little girl would jump, catch the egg in the bag, show it to the audience right then and there, within maybe 15, 30 seconds as people were applauding, those fireworks would go off because they were like clockwork every single night. Epcot's fireworks was at 9 o'clock, and I had this timed almost down to the minute to coincide with those fireworks. So it's a 10-minute long routine, but it was designed to be that way. In this set, I only had 2 effects, if you could call them effects, with lots of magic and lots of audience interaction in between. And that's the reason why I wanted to share this particular picture with you guys, because again, I talk a lot about being quick and being hard-hitting with your magic, but in this case, you can be a little bit longer, or at least I could be a little bit longer there because it fit with what the venue needed. Now, I always like to end these with the best advice I ever received. And again, I always say this is my friend Codell. And Codell was a great, just an amazing magician. He was the very first magician to work Las Vegas, first magician to do an act entirely with birds. He's just such an amazing guy. And Codell's advice was to do something different. He got this advice when he was a young guy starting out. Do something different. Find what is really you and communicate that to your audience. Don't do what everybody else is doing. A lot of times when we're creating our sets, especially when we're starting out, we think in terms of like what we've seen other people perform, and sometimes, like, and again, early on, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but sometimes early on, you don't want to do what everybody else is doing, but it's a natural habit we fall into. Do something different. And some of the other advice that Codell would give me that I always took with me was invest in your act. Invest time, invest focus, invest energy, right? Because that's going to make the biggest difference. In fact, he always told me to hire a coach and director. He married his. I'm not suggesting that we all go out and marry our coaches or our directors, but the reason that you want to hire a coach and a director is because they see what you can. They'll elevate you from being just a magician to becoming a performer. And he always said that when his wife took over and became his performance coach and his director for his shows, he went from being just a magician, and he was really, really awesome. He went from being just a magician to becoming a performer. So I always like to give you guys that advice every single week. Maybe I might switch this up in a little bit, but I think it's such powerful advice that I love even just each week as a refresher for me from doing my shows and from getting ready to do shows on the weekends, that it's such great advice to invest in our acts, invest focus, time, and energy. Remember what we're doing this for. We're doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for our audience and creating that shared experience, right? So now what can you guys do right now, right? So you can go back, if you haven't been taking notes, this will be up on the Versatile Performer blog, and it'll be sitting right here on the YouTube channel. You'll need the link to make sure that you get it, because it is unlisted. You won't be able to find it through a search. but you can go to the blog on the versatileperformer.com. I'll probably have that up, if not tonight, tomorrow. And I do have last week's up on character development, so you can kind of see what we talked about there. But what you can do right now, take the 3 pillars, thinking about your character and how your material works with your character. Think about the time. Remember, time is such a big key. Remember thinking about your audience and how it connects with your audience. So character, your audience, and your venue, I'll kind of put those 2 together, and how much time. And again, factor in practice time and rehearsal time. And those are 2 very different things. We'll be talking about those on a future webinar too, future Google Hangouts. So take those ideas and apply them, right? Start thinking about them in your set. Now, some of you guys may not need to do that. Maybe you guys already know that. Some of you aren't going to do anything. And that's, I put this on here, and I don't want this to sound negative, right? Some of you guys, you know all of this stuff, and that's great. And you don't necessarily have to do anything. You don't have to change anything. Some of you might take what you've learned, and you can do this alone. You can start applying some of this stuff alone, and that's okay too. Again, these aren't negative things, but there is another way. And being here, right, being on this webinar is a great way to start of doing things a little bit differently. Like, just going to help teach you magic and learn sleight of hand, but do something different that's going to help you become a more amazing performer. Because people don't necessarily just connect with the magic. The magic is only the medium. It's like a oil for an oil painting. The performer is really the canvas that the audience is connecting with. And when you perform really well, when you put a lot of thought into the performance of magic and not just into the technique and the skill that goes into whatever it is you do, whether you're a magician. I tend to talk a lot about magicians just because I was a magician, or I am a magician, I should say, for so many years. But think about doing something different to help your performance out. And being here, and I congratulate everybody who joins in to watch these. I know these are sometimes at a little bit rough of an hour for people to make. I've gotten a lot of emails this past week from people saying they love to watch it. We got over 100 views last week of people being able to watch afterwards. So if you're here watching, whether you're doing it live or whether you're doing it on the replay, that's fantastic, and this is a great way to start. You can subscribe to this channel on YouTube, and I would really appreciate you guys jumping on there, subscribing to the YouTube channel. You can go over to our site, theversatileperformer.com. My friend Josh and I are setting that up. We're in the early stages right now, so lots of things are going to be happening over the next few weeks. You can engage with me on Twitter. I'm at Jay Wethington. I tweet semi-regularly. I'm not the best tweeter, but I do try to put in daily tips, things to think about, retweet cool quotes. I'm into a whole lot of other stuff. I'm not a negative person on social media. I'm not a big fan of the negativity there. So I try to fill it up with good positive stuff. And you can connect with me on Facebook. Please friend me over there. I'm also involved with the group Full Circle Magic. And you can reach out to me on the Magic Cafe. I believe I'm Jay Wethington over on the Magic Cafe, if you guys are members over there. So lots of different ways that you can do something different. And ask me questions through those different places. You can direct message me, send me a Facebook message, send me an email. You can do all of those things. In fact, we've got the chat open right now. If you guys want to ask any questions, if you have any questions, do that now. You can put any questions that you might have up there. But then also, I wanted to throw something out to everybody this week that's going to watch this either now or if you're going to watch this on the replay. And the idea that I had was to have an online boot camp, kind of going over in more detail all of these concepts, skills, and techniques that I'm going to be sharing over the next few weeks, and then what I shared this week and even last week. And I was thinking that it would probably be a really cool thing to keep it to a very limited number of people, and really kind of tailor it to what our goals are for the people that are involved in the group and the skill levels. Maybe not have so many different skill levels that we're all over the place, but um, I think we could do a pretty wide range of skill levels, maybe not super advanced in the beginning, but to create some specific goals and to help each other really grow and become amazing performers, which is really what we want to become, like I said. So if you guys have any questions, doesn't look like anybody is posting anything in the question box. That's okay. But if you do have questions, um, go over, if all of that sounds interesting to you, go over to theversatileperformer.com, click on the contact. There's a form there. Let me know that you're interested in maybe the online boot camp or just questions in general that you might have. And I'll be happy to answer those. Either I'll send you an email directly, or more than likely I'll be answering the questions through the webinars, through these Google Hangouts. I think that's a really great way of doing that. Put boot camp, if you're interested in learning more, or maybe me talking a little bit more about the boot camps and putting those together, put boot camp at the beginning of your message so I know what we're talking about and I know how to address it to you. But also while you're there, definitely sign up. We'll be putting out some emails. We're going to be putting out some free effects. A lot of cool stuff is going to be coming out of there. So go over to the Versatile Performer, like I said. Ask me some questions there, or if you've got a few seconds, I'm only going to be on here maybe another 3 minutes talking about this stuff this week. So if you do have a pressing question, go ahead and jump in now. Ask me a question. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Next week is going to be the 1st of July. We'll be right here, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to be talking about approaching sleight of hand, studying it, practicing it, and rehearsing it. And those are really cool things to talk about. A lot of I won't be going in so much as the secrets of sleight of hand, talking about actual sleight of hand methods. We may be talking about the names of certain things, like I think we can talk about like double turnovers or passes or shifts, things like that. But I won't be actually tipping any of the mechanics there. I think if we want to talk about stuff like that, again, go to theversatileperformer.com and go to the form and ask me about sleight of hand specifically, and I'll be happy to address that there. Or we can do a special Google Hangout just for that. So thanks so much, guys, for watching. I'm glad you tuned in, and I will see you next week. Take care, guys. All the best.